Yeah, so I thought we sort of let ourselves down because we're trying to be this untraditional accountancy firm, and I'm wearing a grey suit and a blue shirt, and you're wearing a blue shirt as well.
I am.
No crazy cat shirts and tacos and
Yeah, that.
Slauson and T-Rex.
No, that shirt was horrendous. Like it just looked like someone vomited on that shirt.
It's the really bad thing. Like what people don't understand about this shirt. It's not just how horrendous and offensive it looks. It's how it feels. I'll let you.
Yeah,
like,
it was
you
disgusting.
It's like
It's really
it's
just
so
not
bad.
No one should ever touch that. You need to get a picture of that shirt on the screen. Well,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so we can show
we'll
people how horrendous it actually is.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful though. Like it's beautiful.
It has the effect.
The desired effect.
And that is the introduction to
Yeah, you're
Anderson and Edwards.
fantastic. It's kind of how our meetings start. Like, so it's fine. Like they're getting a real client experience right now.
Oh yeah, this is the full thing.
This is what it's about. Oh, you want to talk about tax now? Nah.
Never. No, I mean, who wants to ever talk about tax?
What are you wearing? Like who made it? Like,
can I just say, there's so much construed.
Well, to be fair,
so
that is sort of also my chat. Like, it's just, I do a lot of stuff on the phone. That's grim.
Right.
Moving on.
Yes. Right. Before this gets out of hand, let's start off by introducing yourselves then.
Hello, my name is Dean Anderson. I am the managing director of Anderson and Edwards.
I'm already annoyed at this. I'm James Edwards. I am the tax director. And before I go on my soapbox about why I'm angry about what Dean just said there, Letitia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Letitia Lam, and I am marketing partner, manager, gal, whatever we want to call it, for Anderson and Edwards.
Savior.
Thank you. I will happily take that title. Right, go James.
So basically, this firm is 50-50 between Dean and I. Like basically, this all came about when Dean was sort of setting it up. And he asked me, oh, what do you want your job title to be? And I was like, well, I'm a director and I do tax. So tax director, that makes sense. Thinking, Dean does accounts. He'll be accounts director. What does he call himself? And secretly mind. Managing
consultation.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go
Managing.
back through our WhatsApp messages and see what actually the conversation was. I definitely told you.
But yeah, I probably thought you were joking though, to be honest. And he calls himself managing director. And now I get all these phone calls from like cold calls and stuff because Dean doesn't answer the phone. So I answer these unknown numbers and they're like, oh, can I speak to Dean Anderson, the managing director, please? I'm like, why do you want to speak to Dean? Why don't you want to speak to James? I make decisions too. Like, I just got this massive chip on my shoulder about it. And then he's all these little things. He's bought the big chair in the office.
Obviously,
it's a whole thing, and it's really quite upsetting. Like
I'm sorry you feel that way.
This podcast is really just about me airing my grievances.
I feel like that is.
We got this mediator.
Yes, yeah. Agony aunt here, just sitting here taking it.
I'm selling my 50%. I'm selling it. Gone.
To get the bigger chair. Okay, well tell me then. So you guys have known each other for a long time. So how did you meet?
So we met at university.
Okay.
We were in the same halls, a couple rooms down from each other, in between a stairwell. But the union had a school disco event, and me and my friend wore our school ties, which we were sitting drinking in the uni, in their sort of our lounge area, and James walked in. James, I know. I find it so hard to flick between James and Jamie. Jamie walks in and just goes, "Why are you wearing my school tie?" And then we sort of realised that we were both doing the same course, grew up, went to the same high school. And so
I'm a lot older than Dean. I know I look a lot younger.
I did trim some.
You're trying to look younger.
And you're both in blue shirts, so it's a level playing field.
Well, yeah, exactly. We're just the same person now, really. But no, it's So yeah, that was basically how it all started. We had the same sort of attitude to university. I think Dean probably committed an awful lot more to going to lectures and things like that. But a close friendship was created because I wouldn't go to lectures and Dean would send me a message, be like, "You missed this. Go and read this." Because that's how I learned. I didn't learn by someone reading something to me. I learned by give me a book and I'll read it and I'll learn it. And if I've got a question, I'll come and speak to you about it, which isn't what a lecture is, obviously. So. Basically, I'm trying to justify my laziness right now. Is what I wanted to say, but no, we worked really well as a team, as in Dean did work and I'd Hang you off the back
you
of
did
it.
everything else all work.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like, and there was always these jokes in at university that we were going to go and set up a firm together. We didn't initially. It wasn't like left university and set up the firm. We went our own paths, very different paths, and very different routes and different specialisms. And but then eventually we just thought, it's time, let's do it. And well, yeah, we've been around for a wee while now. Like, we're not exactly the new boys on the block anymore.
Not anymore.
It's just
no.
Yeah,
almost 2 years anniversary.
Yeah, well, I consider
That's
quick.
quick.
I consider it 3 because I went out by myself before. Like,
For one.
Yeah,
And failed.
I made a profit.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
The branding wasn't on point. Like that you could criticize me on.
Okay. Yeah. We forgot to bring the wee Edinburgh tax expert.
Oh, the wee cow.
Yeah,
we should have brought the wee cow.
Milton. There was a competition to name him. His name's Milton.
What was the prize? A free tax return?
They got to name the cow.
That
was the prize. Yeah.
What a great prize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good. That firm didn't do very well. But yeah.
That's why we're here. But you guys, you said you joked around about starting your own business.
Yeah, so obviously if you abbreviate our names, it's A&E, sort of accident and emergency. So that was sort of the running joke throughout uni. But when it was sort of, you told some of our uni friends, particularly when you went out, it's like, oh, so when's Dean joining you then? And then about 8 months later, Dean's now joining me.
Yeah, so yeah, that's basically the situation. And we work really well together. In fact, like this sort of podcast we won't go too technical. I'm sure we won't. Like you'll stop me.
Yeah.
But we have these conversations every day. Like when something new comes out, we have different perspectives on it, different ways of thinking, different specialisms. Mm-hmm. So it's quite useful that we just have these really candid conversations about like what this is actually going to mean for people, and like that should hopefully get to the correct answers to the way that we would approach a problem.
Okay.
Is that we're coming at it from different perspectives.
Okay.
And I'll lose a lot of the time because I'm very idealistic, and Dean's a bit more pragmatic with his sort of solutions. It was like, well, we're not doing that because I will have to do it, so I'm not doing it. So it's okay, fine. But no, it's typically how it works out.
Okay, so before we get into the specifics then, do you want to just quickly cover your specialisms individually and how you two make the Anderson and Edwards?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go first. So basically, I'm a chartered tax advisor. Now, a lot of people don't know what that is, which is totally fair because there aren't too many of us about, to be honest, and a lot of other industries do tax advice. So it's getting really nitty gritty, technical with it. Like people aren't interested, but there's lots of us about, but we're all typically hidden in big firms and tiny little departments getting wheeled out to answer technical tax questions. So I started off in quite a big firm down south in Wiltshire, which is just full of farms. And anyone who knows anything about tax is that farms and agriculture is some of the hardest stuff you can do. So I was like, yes, I want to do that. I want to get really good at the hard stuff, and then everything else will be easy. But as you get more into tax, you start to realize that there are just so many different specialisms, and tax is a village. So we all know each other, and we all know each other's little specialisms. And as opposed to some other industries, I don't see so much of a competition. It's more of a sort of collaborative effort, because we're none of us are really interested in sort of gaining market share. It's all like, I want to get the answer. I want to get the answer to this, and it's sort of a certain personality type that gets involved in tax. And I went from like this huge firm to a much smaller firm in Scotland, and then a much smaller firm than that in Scotland, until eventually I was by myself. And now I've doubled in size, so like I'm growing again. Be 4 people next. So yeah, it was just a different way of going about it. I do private client, so that's sort of individuals rather than companies mainly. I mean, I can do other stuff, but like my main thing is private client and trusts and farms. And, so yeah, I get a lot of sort of just like high earning employees and things, or in weird share schemes or and things like that, and just trying to unpick problems. And I do a lot of deceased estates with solicitors and things, which is the complete opposite of what Dean does. so yeah,
it's very much it's one of those things where we can't really do much of each other's work, which is probably what you don't want. You want to sort of branch out a wee bit. But yeah, so I'm a CA, so I did my training with ICAS. I've gone small, big four, worked in industry abroad, worked for a firm abroad, and then small firm in Scotland, a medium-sized firm in Scotland before joining Jamie. So I've sort of
joining Jamie. Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I'll give you one. So yeah, so what I do is annual accounts, compliance work. It's sort of my bread and butter, but what I aim to do is help clients understand the management, basically make them more efficient so that they don't need to worry about that side. The client should be focused on making as much money as possible. And then we're sort of, I'm beside them sort of, right, have we thought about maybe procedures or operations? How are you doing that? How are we maximising some of the tax stuff? But that should always be a second thought. If you're making as much money as possible, you can probably on a gross profit margin sort of level, you're going to look after the business. You're going to make hopefully the lifestyle you want to be making for yourself. And I went to work with sort of smaller businesses that appreciate that advice, and we sort of hit on it today. We're not the accountants to go from A to B. We're the accountants to go from B to C, and then from C to D is when you go big and you're sort of then with the big four, and you sort of got us as sort of maybe in the background just so you can ask those questions, because you're then going back into that world, the big corporate world, where they're going to come at you with the big technical words, which you do sometimes, but we can not dumb it down, but put it in a way that helps clients understand what it is. But for me, it's all about like understanding your cash flow. How do you maximize that? Making sure you can, at the click of a button, you can see how the year is going. And what I want clients to do is ask me questions that, oh, right, my profit's this. What does that mean? Or like, what's happening here with this? And asking questions rather than, here's all the information, how much tax has I got you? That's with what's happening in the industry in the next sort of 5-10 years. That is going, as we'll probably touch on later, but that's sort of where my role is.
Okay, so common misconception: accountant equals tax advisor. Tax advisor also is an accountant. What do we have to say on that, and what's the main differentiation?
I get in a lot of bother with this question, because it comes across as if like I'm slagging off accountants a lot, and I gave away half my business to an accountant. I am the one person who really appreciates just how valuable accountants are. However, just saying it all up. Accountants, typical general accountants, they're not tax advisors. They can do tax, they do exams on it, and they sit and do it. But as soon as something gets particularly complicated, it's not what they do. It's not what they're valuable at. Their value is what Dean was describing, of improving a business. My stuff is to make sure you're doing it right. Like there's nothing that's going to trip you up. You're going to do everything immaculately. Like, we're ticking every box in terms of the legislation. That's not a valuable thing for an accountant to do. That's my area. It's a different skill set. Now, there are people who are accountants and tax advisors, and like, tip, doff of the cap, incredible to do both sets of exams. But like, my mindset is, I am tax, and that's all I want to focus on. I'm useless at like the cloud software. I'm useless at it. Like, so this is what I'm good at. Now, a lot of people do just call me an accountant. I was like, oh, he's my accountant, and I pick my battles. Like, I don't like correct people all the time. It's like, but I'm not. I'm a tax advisor. It's a very different thing, and accountants know that. And they, like I say, they do tax. So it's not a hill I'm going to die on, because like, I understand why people get it mixed up. But it's to those in the industry, it's not the same thing. That's about as diplomatic as I can put it. But it's like, I do have some beers sitting beside me, like, so like, I might have one of them, and then just like go right. No, this is what I really think. Are you expect? Okay.
No, I thought you were going to.
I'll get them out.
Well, it's more because you're going to have to the keys and sound.
I mean, the Django, yeah.
The Django,
yeah.
This was the whole point was to open it beforehand,
Is
but
this
you're
the
like
new
want to
bottle?
want to.
No. This is just
this is
my,
the
this is
existing
just
one.
my keyring. So no, so last night I got a wonderful bottle opener from an event that Letitia invited me to. Sorry, I'm not speaking to the mic right now.
It's all right. The beer's distracting you.
Yes. Oh, what one did they open? Oh, 10.7. Is that, do you want this one?
Fantastic.
Can hold on.
No,
I'll hold that
I'm
up
alright.
so we can see how
Right,
small
where?
that bottle is. And there's how much in that? 10.7% alcohol.
I don't actually know what the actual.
Yeah, at the front.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't know what the 330. It's nothing. It's just a wee can of
I
Iron Brew.
mean, it's tiny, that bottle.
It's gonna take me ages to clean that. Do you want one?
No, I'm alright.
I said just gonna stop and let me drink by myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna let
Letitia,
you-
Do you want one?
I would be drunk after
Fair enough. This will take me
No
all.
one
This
wants
also,
to see me
this also
drunk.
just sums up. Remember the employee of the chat, and you'd gone to the pub most days in was it August?
That's what I do.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's what I do.
Friday at like, what, 3 o'clock,
Yeah,
so...
like, context is key. This isn't 9 o'clock on a Monday. Like,
Or is it?
this is Friday afternoon.
For the purposes of the video.
Yeah, so I'll put that there. So this is a client's beer as well. Sorry, I just do a little plug. Do a little plug. She doesn't need it. She sells out every time she
Amazing.
does the thing. So yeah, she's given us lots of free stuff. So we've taken on this brewery. So this
What are
is
they called?
Inner Bay Brewery. It's a brewery based in Fife, but she's quite like niche. Yeah, it's really good. It's quite strong, but it's really good.
Amazing. So you've got a brewery client now.
We got a brewery.
A
We've
video
got
game client.
video games. We've
What else?
got we just taken on like alcohol related. We got Caribbean rum
Yep.
specialist.
Oh yeah.
Rum
uh-huh.
Martin.
Yeah,
I'm
he's-
excited for that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's good fun. He sounds like he's good fun at marketing. Actually, but he's in Dumbarton, so we've not actually been out there yet. We're
No, yeah.
trying to wrangle our sort of our way up there. Like on my this is all like Dean's exciting stuff because it's all businesses. Whereas
Yeah.
like my guys are like the individuals. So like, I've got some interesting guys too. but no.
You just can't talk about
No,
those
I'm not
openly.
allowed to. Like, to be fair, they don't tell me. They're all like top secret. But no, it's good fun. It's really some interesting characters that we seem to be picking up, which is who we want. Like we're not interested if you've got like super simple stuff. To be honest, I want complications. I want you to be doing weird things because like
I don't.
Yeah, you don't. No, but I do. I quite like it. It's a bit of a challenge, you know. I quite like that stuff. So yeah, I tend to get the weirder people who are just absolute rock stars of what they do, but what they do is just like really weird.
Okay.
So yeah, that's sort of what I'm trying to get.
Is
and
that
it's working.
so? Is that why would you say is the reason you wanted to start up a business on your own?
I mean that was certainly an element. To be honest, like when I first set up by myself, then I probably didn't think I would be able to get to this stage as quickly as I have. Like maybe I should have believed in myself more, but no, I know there's a lot of competition out there, and I just kind of thought, right, I'm quite good at this. I think I'll be okay. But I suppose the reason I set out by myself was because, well, as you can tell, I'm not very reserved, and I found that I was
really?
I was finding I was biting my tongue a lot in places. Like, don't get me wrong, like where I've worked previously, I was really nurtured really well, and I got a great time for places. But like, I was always feeling I was sort of I was having to hold back what I really felt a lot because I was representing the firm, not necessarily myself. So I thought, like, it was always my plan to set up by myself. There was never any secret about it. I thought I probably should have waited a couple of years. Like, I didn't quite have, like, people do make comments how young I am and stuff. I'm not that young anymore. I don't feel it. But it's yeah. So that was a real reason. Number one was just I want to prove I could do it. Like, that was what it was. And then I sort of proved I could do it, and I wanted to see how far I could do it. And then because of that, I get to pick the clients that I wanted, and I can. In private client, I think it's really important to actually build a real relationship with people, because you have to tell people about the horrible stuff that's going on in your life. Like, it's not just numbers. It's like the expression I use all the time is, it's more important for you to tell me that you don't like your daughter's boyfriend. Like, that's relevant information, like, because of like trusts and things like that. Like, that's really useful, and people don't expect it. People don't expect me to say stuff like that and really trying to dig deep about what's going on in people's lives and families, and so I need to pick clients that I'm going to get along with, because otherwise that'll be very difficult to do. It makes my job harder if I don't like my clients. Like, that's basically the situation. And not that I didn't like any of my clients in previous places. They were like, I typically ended up, I like everyone really. I'm a people pleaser, but no, that was the main reason. I think was just I just wanted to prove I could do it, and then secondly it was actually I could just pick more of the people that I could really help, I could really add value to. So that was a point, and so yeah, that's why I did it. Why'd you do it? Other than the fact I spoke to your wife and I was like, like,
this is a good idea.
Rebecca.
This is a good idea to you to go and join your drinking buddy. Go and set up your own firm. And then every sort of Friday afternoon, we're going to the pub. Yep, I'll be home at 8 o'clock each night. Yeah. You did convince my wife, but I basically was like, do you want to come and join me? Yes, was sort of the response to that. And reason for me is, as I said in sort of the intro stuff, is I want to help clients and help business owners particularly. But doing that as an employee, you're slightly losing that. Like at the end of the month, I know I'm definitely getting paid, hopefully by my employer. Whereas business owners, you might need to make the sale, you might need to chase that debt, you have to pay your employees, make sure you've got all the money in the door. So how can I can relate to that? I could relate to it in sort of theoretical point of view. I've been doing accounts now for 10 years, but you need to do real world and then understanding how to do that from a business owner's point of view. So dealing with HMRC from a business owner's point of view, right? We deal with them as an agent predominantly, but how do we deal with it from as a business owner? And I can relate that to the clients. Like, I'm sorry, you're going to need to phone HMRC, and that's sort of where it is. And then bringing that, when I was in Australia has gone down this route where their advisors, the accountants are now advisors to businesses, and that's very much something I wanted to do. So that sort of was another thing, like this UK market's not really doing that quite yet. So right, let's get in here early, let's get our sort of train of thought and move on to it that way. One of the other reasons was I wanted to control as much of my time as possible. I think that's something a lot of, particularly our generation, look to do now, is I want to control as much of my life as possible. Slightly harder now with a 10-month-old at home that doesn't like to sleep, but that's just part of it. But it allows me to, right, Fridays afternoon, I'm going to go and spend time with my family. I don't need my boss to approve that.
Or me.
Or you.
Yeah.
Or
50-50
or I can go down south and work down south with my wife's, my in-laws, and I can just take the laptop and go and just let clients know that I can't be face-to-face meetings, but with the modern technology, you can do Teams and Zooms. That's sort of the other reason. And the final reason was a prestige of running your own business. I think that's something that I've always sort of wanted. I was thinking myself as slightly entrepreneurial, but I could never think of a good idea. So I don't really think I'm an entrepreneur.
Another university story here. We found out that Dean's first business, he sold macaroons, like door to door.
What?
Yeah. Like,
Did you make the macaroons?
No.
Oh, what? I didn't know this. No. Who's your supplier?
So we'd buy them and then I go around the doors in the village and fight.
So yeah, I wasn't the first to go out by myself. Dean's been a business owner.
Yeah, my gran did buy some of my stock to help me make money. So I wouldn't describe it as a very successful start into entrepreneurship.
Talking about that just reminded me of it, like this chat about like Dean and his macaroons. Like that was it.
So Jamie's first business made a profit. Did yours?
Oh well, it was a bit hard not to when your gran buys all your stock you don't sell in a week. And their way of supporting me? No, I can't. Yeah, I used to earn about 10 a week. We'd buy the stock for £30. I'd sell it for 40.
Oh wow, markup!
Yeah. Very good markup.
I would then
ripping off.
I would then eat some of the stock on the way around. So it was never £10. But yeah, that was my first 40.
Oh, brilliant. Wait, sorry, did you finish your point?
No,
there?
it was
Right.
Just
okay.
being a business owner and
business owner
and being able to go to events and representing my own values, my what I want to say to clients, that sort of thing. There's not very much the firm, like, oh, I've got bosses, I can't say that because that might not work with the ethos of the firm. Whereas if I'm creating my firm and this is what I would want the clients to do, and that's probably one of our core values is our clients, if you're doing something interesting, you're instantly up there. We want to probably work with you.
Oh wow, what's that product?
Yeah.
Okay, your fee's nothing. Like,
We'll take you on tomorrow.
We definitely have 2 or 3 clients where we should be charging them about 4 or 5 times the amount we're actually charging them, but we just find them interesting. So it makes zero commercial sense from a sort of standpoint. So say we ever get in a situation where we want to sell the business and someone looks, why are you only charging this client this? I'm like, I like them.
I've only dealt with this relief in my exams. Like, I wanted to say I've done it in practice. Like, those decisions do get made a lot. Basically, again, I was complimenting Dean's business acumen, but no, like he's just as bad as me. Like he is just as bad as me on occasion. Like no commercial awareness. Like, oh wow, this is really complicated. Oh, you get a lesser price because I've not done it before.
Yeah.
So,
You're just as bad as each other. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, he can understand my logic sometimes, where there is none. Like which is useful. It's useful.
Okay, so do you want to talk about something more interesting now?
Oh yeah, obviously. Like what we're going to talk about?
Just what's happening in the world today. I mean, this is what the 20. What are we on?
Oh yeah, we've got to be very clear on the date.
The date, yeah. I mean,
because someone reads this like on Monday, like it'll all be wrong.
It won't make any sense. So it's is it 21st?
It's the 21st.
21st of October.
The lettuce has just beaten Liz Truss in the race of who's going to last longer. I'm not going to.
I didn't actually realize lettuce has lasted that long.
No, they're 90% water.
Yeah, true. Yeah. It looked pretty good, I have to admit.
So most interested I've ever been on the Daily Star, I have to say. But there's obviously been a lot of things that have happened. So I suppose to go through it, I'm not going to go percentages wise as much as I want to, so stop me if I do. But the way I sort of wanted to present this. Yeah, sorry.
Enough.
Yeah, no, bad enough. I suppose the way that I would sort of go through, I won't go through everything. I'll go through some of the key things that I think are particularly important. But so the way I wanted to do this is go through like go spaghetti western and be like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So yeah, let's start with the good.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. No, there's definitely some good there. I won't go into the tax stuff on this, but basically, when the first budget came out, the first mini budget even, they extended the sunset clause in the enterprise investment schemes, which basically these are you shouldn't use the word scheme in tax because it makes people think like Jimmy Carr and like all this horrendous stuff. But this is really good stuff. This is like investing in green energy, technology, medical devices, like small UK companies with great ideas. They are high risk. They are incredibly high risk, and they do fail. A lot of them fail. Great tax relief when they fail. And that's the side that I deal with. So I'm dealing purely with the numbers, not necessarily the companies. But this stuff's been around since like 1994 in some form or another, and it was due to end in 2025, and the government has decided that it's good enough that they're going to extend that. So I think we'll see an awful lot more movement in this space, and it's basically private funding for good ideas like universities. Then you've got like a smaller level of that, which is SEIS. This is seed enterprise investment schemes, and like that's sort of been the thresholds before you don't qualify for that like slightly better level of sort of tax relief and stuff. That's been extended, so it's no longer just like a guy in his shed. It's like a guy in a slightly bigger shed. Like that's basically so like. It's sort of, you can grow a little bit bigger before you have to go to the next level of stuff. But yeah, that is really good news. I mean, it doesn't affect everybody, but in terms of funding for small businesses that are coming up with the ideas that qualify for this, that the government wants to encourage, this is good because obviously with interest rates and inflation and things, debt funding is very difficult. It's getting more expensive. And so equity funding, giving away a bigger slice of your pie, but hopefully the pie will be bigger. That's sort of the route that this sort of encourages. So that is good. That's fundamentally, I was pleased to hear that. It was sort of maybe a political leaning sort of way of thinking about it, but like that, I liked that. I thought that was really good. That's about the only good.
From on my side, what's happening from the sort of accountancy point of view is cloud software and allowing clients to take some of the control and some of the ownership of it, where you're getting away from the here's your shoebox to your tax advisor, to your accountant. You're sort of getting away from that now, and it's allowing clients to come to accountants and ask, what does this mean? Or what is this? And bigger picture things, rather than, I've just bought a tractor, where do I code it in the accounts? Or if they do that, I can just log on the software and change it. So that's sort of what's positive from my mindset, is that technology is helping business owners become more efficient and become easier to become more compliant, which is, I think, a positive point of view. But
I'm a Luddite. I'm pen and paper.
Yeah.
So
I do have to bring you cooking
Still
and
using
screaming.
pencils, aren't you?
Oh, well, yeah. I make a lot
I'm
of
surprised you
mistakes.
haven't actually brought your pencil in.
Well,
for us.
I've not even brought a pen. I've not brought a branded pen. Like, that's, yeah, you've got
This
one.
is what I have to deal with. on a regular basis.
I've already written everything down. It's perfect. It's perfect. So yeah, no, I agree. Like the technology side of accountancy and in business running in general is very much a positive. There are negatives to it, in the fact that if you don't do it, you've got a problem. So yeah, but it's good. It is fundamentally good. You can get the information. You can add better value stuff rather than 18 months after the fact. Let's do a set of accounts for me. Like, there's no information that helps. Like,
Right.
who cares how your business was doing 18 months ago? Like it's like, how's it doing today? Like what decisions can I make today? If you looked at the world 18 months ago, it was a very different place. So it's like, well, okay, clients.
Oh, dear.
Is that your phone?
That's my phone. Yeah. Twang. But yeah, so yeah, like I do think it's a good thing. I just don't like the idea that people are being forced down this route. But you know, I mean, I would encourage people to do it. I just don't like the idea of forcing them to do it, which is what the government's planning on doing. So, so that's not great on my side. But yeah, so that's the good. The good is that there is technology available and it does work and it is valuable, and also this SEIS stuff, which and EIS stuff, which I think is really good. So yeah, that's the good.
Right.
Let's talk about the bad.
Yep.
There's obviously a fair amount of bad, but I thought I'll keep with one thing. One thing that is fairly obvious is the increase and complication in corporation tax.
Okay.
So we knew this was coming, and then Liz Truss got voted in on the basis that she wouldn't bring it in, and then it got reversed, and then she's now no longer Prime Minister, and. So basically, this means that corporation tax is now it's now higher for higher earners. Basic stuff, it used to be 19% no matter what your profit was. It's now 19% for the first 50,000. So yeah, thanks. Personal tax, don't do corporation. And then, sorry, it's difficult to keep up with the rules; they keep changing. So you got 50,000.
You're saying that.
Yeah. I know exactly. So it's 50,000, 19%, and then you've got like up to 250. Then you've got this weird marginal sort of situation, which we used to have. I remember studying at university, but by the time I was in practice, this no longer existed. So for 10 years now, the corporation tax has been simple. It's been different rates, but it's been simple. And now it's a bit more complicated again. Top rate's 25. Marginal rate is a complicated way to explain things, but it's 26%.
0.3.
26. But the reality is that it gets confusing for people, because if you say that, they might think, oh, I earn £100,000 in profit on my company, I've got to pay 26%. It's not true. You're paying less than 25, but you've got the first 50,000 is at 19, so it's like, it's confusing.
Threshold.
Yeah, it's confusing. So basically, you won't pay more than 25%. Is probably the best way to describe it.
Okay.
But there's going to be a lot of misinformation about there. A lot of people who don't truly understand it, who don't know the difference between marginal and the way it actually works. But the reality is, corporation tax is going up. There's your headline. Like it's going up and it's confusing. So that's the issue we're dealing with. And so now it's more complicated, and now that corporation tax is higher, that's the bad. Like, I think that's the really bad thing. You could talk about the income tax thresholds and not changing or going up and going down, but the reality is, like, that nothing's really changed too much. Like, not in comparison to the other expenses people are getting. So it's like it's like things have changed, but it's not dramatic. Whereas like corporation tax, that has changed quite a lot. So so
and that's only going to impact people that are currently
companies.
Just
currently
companies.
paying it.
Just so all companies will be affected. It comes in from the 1st of April this year.
And that was expected. Like we knew that was coming, and then they said it wasn't, and now they've changed it back to that it is. So it's not like a brand new announcement. It's just a sort of like I was like, to be honest, this is all karma because I was like slagging off corporation tax guys, like, wait, you did all this planning, and then like they do all this stuff in personal tax, and then the reverse.
all Jamie's fault.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like if you believe in karma, basically this is me because I was like having a go at corporation tax specialist. So I was like, ha ha ha. Now it's all come back to me. So yeah, don't be horrible on LinkedIn is basically is the lesson.
It's a great lesson.
and the ugly.
Yes.
Let's talk about the ugly. There was plenty of ugliness in Parliament, obviously, but the thing that I consider ugly would be the national insurance changes. So national insurance is really complicated at the moment. I've never really liked it as a tax, but it's always been confusing. They changed it in July. They changed the thresholds in July this year, which was strange because they typically wouldn't do things mid-tax year. It's fairly rare for them to do things. I don't see it very often. And now they're changing it again in November. Now, this is sort of decisions being made at a macro level about like, this is how we should move and this is this is how much money we'll make. And I feel like not enough has been thought about on the micro level, like how people are actually going to be impacted. This is really going to affect payroll, like people who are actually processing payroll. And the funny thing about this it's not funny, but the interesting thing about this that I read, when I read the technical note on it, it actually acknowledges the fact that it's going to be a disaster. That they even say, don't contact us. They say, do not contact us. In the first instance, contact your employer. So they know it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So this is happening like literally next month, like November when the rates change. So and then we'll see things like bonuses and things like that. Like just things will be different. And to have two changes in the same tax year. If I wrote software for payroll companies, I'd be livid or like ecstatic because you've just created so much work for yourself. But I'd be angry. Like, I'd be like, this is ridiculous. Like, how can you do this stuff? And I truly, I think it's going to cause an awful lot of issues. And so that's why I've called it the ugly. In this case.
It probably is going to add on as well by making things more expensive as well, because the software providers are going to increase their prices because they've had to change it again. Which then typically most accountants pass that on, or if you're running it yourself, you're going to feel that cost as well. So, yeah,
it's tiny numbers, but if you don't get it right, it really affects like everyone. It affects your employees, and it's difficult enough getting employees, as we know. So, like, if you're annoying your workforce, and your workforce will blame you. They will blame you. They won't blame the government. They'll blame the person who's meant to be paying them if it's not correct. And you've got to be spot on. And yeah, I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen. That being said, I don't think there were as many problems in July as I expected there to be. Like I will admit that. Like I thought this was going to be a disaster.
I think it might be more towards the end of the year when you're sort of looking at the big picture. That'll be when it'll be harder to unravel what's going on.
Yeah. So yeah, like again, just to remind you, there was some good. I said some good stuff at the beginning.
I've already forgotten what the good was.
It's all gone downhill. Like, it's all a disaster.
Yeah.
But
and the sort of broader view within the accounting industry space is what's quite hard at the minute is that it's very much a supplier market at the minute where there's not enough people, there's not enough accountants and good people around to provide work to clients. So people are struggling to find it, and I think it's probably come from the pandemic where they've not been able to train people or train the sort of anyone leaving university and doing the professional qualifications, and that's sort of having this knock-on effect now where there's massive skill gaps happened where most of the people, sort of senior people, were like, I don't want to go through MTD, don't want to go through the pandemic, I'll retire early. So then people move up, but there's not the catch up down below. I think that's probably echoed in probably quite a lot of professions as well. It's not just within us, but yeah, I think that's another big
definitely. There are people
issue as well.
There are people who are like maybe 4 years into their job who are doing the jobs of people who would first come in. So they're not seeing progression. They might get their exams and they might get being paid more, but fundamentally they're doing easier work because there's no one there to do it. And it's happening. It's audit in particular, the audit world. Like we don't do audit, like thankfully, but But yeah, I was speaking to an auditor at a big firm this week actually. Someone was asking me for an audit service. I was like, nope, but I'll find someone. And he was telling me, like, I guessed that this was what was happening, and he basically confirmed it. But actually, speaking to him, he was like, it's a lot worse than you think. Like, it's a lot worse. And I was like, well, you brought it on yourself. Not this individual person, but like the industry has brought it on themselves by basically not doing what they should have done in the pandemic and just carried on. And I understand why they didn't, but yeah, it's caused this huge problem, and they're not really addressing it. That's how it looks to me. But I'm not in it. I left. So I'm small. now. I don't need to worry about it. But no, it does have a knock-on effect on us as well. But it's much further down the lane. So I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah,
because,
and
there are bigger problems.
What we've also found as well is some clients have had horrendous services at some other firms as well, and I think that's probably more shocking than anything else, where we are a service-based industry and the service is poor. Why are you in business?
It's not great.
Not great.
No, but it's good for you guys in a way, because then
it's
you can stand out.
for us. It's amazing for us.
We're not well.
Okay,
indirectly,
so you've told us the bad and ugly, the very ugly. What can we do to prepare? Because like obviously I'm a sole trader, and there's like tons of Scotland. Obviously, SME world is huge. We know what's going to happen, and we know what the changes most likely will be, unless there's anything different that will happen in Scotland, which, based on what your opinions are, Jamie, will not be that hugely different.
Yeah. I'll bring that up. I'll bring that up. Like I think Scotland have. I think Scotland have seen what Westminster's done, and I think they'd be pretty silly if they tried to do something dramatic based on how Westminster now look. It's if they do nothing, they will win. So like that seems like the most obvious thing they should do. But I'm not here to talk policy. That's not my role. They're allowed to make their own rules. That's democracy. But it does frustrate me when they announce things and it really affects me and my clients, and I go, and it just seems that no one's being listened to in my industry, which I've got another thing to say about that. But you're asked a specific question.
Yes. So how can people that have their own businesses or sole traders prepare for what's coming up next?
So the main, this is the main. So the big thing that's sort of on the horizon that is coming up is MTD, which is making tax digital for self-employed.
And landlords.
This simple explanation is you're going to be doing about 6 tax returns in the end, or five or six tax returns.
They would hate you saying that because it's not, but it's probably 6 disclosures a year.
Yes. That's probably a better term.
Rather than a single tax return, it will be 6 tax returns. They would hate that expression, but that's effectively what it is.
Is that for everyone? Like,
don't ask me the threshold. We don't know. We don't know. I'm pretty vocal about this on LinkedIn. That I don't think it will happen in the timescale that they think they'll bring it in. But you never know. They'll just bash on anyway. But no, I, off the top of my head, I think it's £15,000 worth of profit. I think it is. Anyway, it's
yours.
I should know this. It's 10%. Come on. But no, it's I know. Fair. You probably know it. You probably said it.
He's just like letting you suffer.
No, basically, it's unless you're absolutely tiny, it's going to affect you, and it will be a mixture of your sole trade profit and rental income if you've got it. If you're just sole trade, then the same threshold, but like they'll amalgamate the stuff. Eventually, I mean, the goal is this is going to be for everyone. Like that's ultimately what they want to do. What we're seeing to people now, the important thing to remember when I say that with the thresholds, it's not like you could go, oh, I'm slightly under it, so I don't need to worry about it. From my experience, it's very difficult to stay exactly under something for years after years after years. So my advice to people would say, just go on the basis from the get-go that this is what's happening. Just get yourself on before there's the mass rush, because everyone's going to want to do it at the last minute. There's only so many people within the technical departments of these software providers that can deal with your problems. Dean is an expert in one or two of the software providers, but not all of them. And that's the point. If someone comes to us and they're on a specific type of software and they want us to fix the issue and it needs to be done yesterday, then it's like, well, I don't know it. And the guys who do, there's going to be so few people, as Dean said, who do know it, like fundamentally, because people will contact me asking me to be a tech expert, like on their software, and you and I both know.
God forbid.
It's a problem. So I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, oh, you need to speak to Dean, and Dean's too busy. And I was like, well, sorry, we can't get to this for another 3 months. So like, well, here you go. That's not the issue right now. But I think by the time it comes along, like the way things are going, I think that's a problem. So my suggestion would be get on this software. My problem with that, of course, is I don't know what software people should get on at this point. Now, I'm speaking to these guys at the moment, not necessarily like the cloud guys. Like because of the nature of what I do, my software is the most powerful. Like the Big Four use it. Like as a tiny little firm, I had to buy the best because I do complicated things, and the complicated software, the powerful software, they handle everything, and I need to be able to handle everything. So my problem with the MTD is that it sort of works for about 90% of people. Like it works really well for about 90% of people, but the 10% is my client base. So I'm like, everyone's saying, oh, this is the solution. This is the solution. And it's like, well, it's not. Like I need it to work for everything. And without me, say my client goes on this software and then they have all the information produced on lovely reports. I now need to make that software talk to my big, powerful software. And that's the issue I've got. Now, I'll let you in a little secret. The big, powerful software, some of them are producing their own version of this software. It's all hush hush. Like, but let's announce it on LinkedIn. I'm trying to get myself onto the guinea pig of this stuff. I've been volunteering myself. I'm specifically myself and not Dean. And the reason I say that is that I think I'd be more valuable to them on the basis that I'm going to break it. I'm going to break it. You're going to find out what your issues are because I'm useless. I will if you can teach me, I'll be able to teach my clients, and then we'll have people for life on it. And so the big guys, we don't know what it looks like yet, and that's the biggest problem. Is people are asking me, what do I do? I don't have a definite solution, and that's why we're not all on board yet, in my opinion, in the accountancy world, because like we don't know, like we don't have a definitive solution yet because we don't know what the problem looks like yet, and we just know it's coming.
Yeah.
So to answer the question a bit more directly, with what's coming on, start using cloud software. There are free apps out there that you can use. In my opinion, they're not the best, but it's more the idea of doing it. Clients are going to have to change the way they approach the tax compliance in our sort of industry, where they can't, if they hand us a box of shoebox full of receipts, as I break my watch, your cost is going to go up. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be forced to do that, especially if you're a small trader. Mm-hmm. 10, 20%, 50% increase in your accountancy fee, you're going to feel that.
It'll be a lot more than that.
Probably.
But the sort of research
there is apps out there that can simplify it, but again, your costs are going up. So if you make it easier, that's where you can then not feel quite as the burden of it. And then the idea is what I started mentioning earlier, where you can then go to your accountant with a question rather than, how have I done this year? Or what all I want to know is my bank balance and how much taxes due. And some vast majority of clients, that will be enough. But when you get sort of you're trying to build something, you're getting to a point where you're like, right, I need to know I'm doing planning and that sort of thing. It's right then it's sort of conversations like, what do you need to live with your lifestyle? Can your business cope with you if you need £3,000? So you need £1,000 to go to the pub. I need £2,000 to live off.
I'm getting free beer off clients.
It's not enough. That's the problem.
Can the business cope with withdrawing of that money on top of paying all your sort of expenditure on top of that? And that's where it's, if you've got the information there and you've been using the software for sort of 2-3 years before you needed to, you've got that historical data rather than a piece of paper from the accountant that summarizes it. You've got that information to hand, and you can change it by monthly, quarterly, daily if you were that way inclined.
So I could give you a real world example, like because like as Dean basically runs ours, so we use Zero because Dean's a big Zero geek and cultist, and basically
You got an invite to ZeroCon, I heard.
I'll never be invited. I'll never be invited. But basically I sort of alluded to the fact that like our next biggest problem is recruitment. So imagine the situation that I had no records. So take for example that I'm not an accountancy firm and I'm another generic business that does
Marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing. Right, okay.
Good
Good idea.
Marketer in the room with us.
Yeah, okay. Marketing makes sense. You'll understand. So like basically, like you've got some money in the bank account, not 100% sure how your business is doing today, and you're like, well, okay, how much extra work, how many extra sales do I need in order to take someone on, and how much does that cost me? Like the national insurance, like the equipment that I'm going to need to buy for my employee. If you came to an accountant with that problem, and you were sort of shoebox receipts, paper bag of receipts, it's like, well, you know, that's historic stuff, like that's the compliance. Whereas if you're on cloud software, we can log in, look at your stuff and go, right, okay, bank balance, sales, if you had an additional cost of this per month, when does your bank balance get too low? Like how quickly do you need to make these sales? We can look at your information real time and make these decisions that actually improve your business. And I keep using this we word. It's him. It's him. I don't do that. But that's what I was asking Dean. I was like, listen, if I'm going to take someone on, like, and it's going to cost me this amount of money, how many more sales do I need to make? How much do I need to quote for this work in order to make it make economical sense? If he's got that information, then he can make that decision really, really quickly rather than have to do basically a set of accounts that isn't a real set of accounts. You know, like that's you're basically asking them to double the work. Yeah. Where it's like, well, we can actually help you. We can be your business partners in this sense. It's like, well, okay, we can just give you the answer to what you need. Yeah. And like that's what people need. Like fundamentally, like people just want the answer to the question. Like, and if we have the information, that makes the job easier.
The one thing to sort of mention with this is the basic thing they need to get right is the bookkeeping needs to be good enough. It has to be, you have to put the things in the right places and those sort of things. And if you're working with an accountant, ask questions like, is this right? And most of the software have built in rules and sort of automations that allow things to be posted into the same account each month. So it makes it a lot easier based on the bank rules or the supplier. So you can sort of, that error, the error margin decreases, which is what ultimately builds on that. And that's essentially what accountants are, is we are glorified bean counters, as my uncle very likes to remind me every so often. Is
I would never say that.
Yeah. But if the core data is not,
I love that term though.
If the core data is not good enough, so the bookkeeping is not good enough, those decisions could go horribly wrong. Whereas we're actually saying, actually, yeah, you've got everything looks good, but if you've got if miscoded things in the wrong way, we would hopefully catch it before we said anything like that to a client, but there's still that risk of what's going on.
Okay, so cloud software.
Yeah, get yourself on it. That's basically what you need to. If you're not on it, get on it. That's the answer.
Okay.
From a bit more pragmatic point of view, and this is stuff that you've said to me before, is that your choice of software. We're biased because Dean's biased because he's a favorite of one. It doesn't mean that that's the best for you. Like it means that that's the best for him. Like as the accountant, it's his favorite, and that means that it's going to be best for you because he's going to be able to use it better. So if someone comes to us and they're really confident with, so like say like we'd much favor Zero to anything else if you were on the cloud stuff. But if you were already on QuickBooks and you liked it and you're already used to it, then find an accountant who really likes QuickBooks. Right. Like that's what you say.
100%.
Like we've had people come to us who are on QuickBooks or free agent because it's free with a certain bank account. Like and we say, well, right. Like we could take you on, but we'll have to charge you more because it'll take us longer because we've got to learn how to do it, and it's a bit of a faff. If you want to come on with us, then you'll have to switch to the software because we just think it's better for both of us. And people will say yes, or people will say no to that. I don't think it's a bad question to ask, just to be a little bit honest about it. And it's like, but there are people who are good with the various different types of software. You have your favorite. Like people will say they can do all, but the reality is you'll have a favorite. So you're a better fit for that person. That's how I see it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, you think that's fair?
I think that's fair.
Good.
Very
Good.
fair.
Well, it's the first time. I think we've agreed for the first
Great.
time. That's good. That's good.
How's the beer coming along?
I'm drinking a lot faster than I drank the
Are
other
you finished it yet?
No, oh god, no. I'd be falling around. Like by the end of this, I've got another 2
We're
sitting down
almost
here.
done as well.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh, gee, we talked for a while.
Oh no, we do talk. You're like,
And you
"You
said
can't-
1 hour wasn't
1
enough."
hour wasn't enough.
Okay, so on that note then, assume that, say there's someone out there that doesn't have any cloud software in place or has one but hasn't fully maybe learned how to use it. What are the questions they should be asking
Oh, that's a
an
good point.
accountant if they're looking to prep for the future?
That's a good question.
Also asking for myself.
It's one of those things with the cloud softwares particularly is that you can make mistakes, and it's recognizing you maybe do 10, 15 transactions, and then I've done 10, 15, can I check these are right? I log in, I check, yep, they're all good, maybe tweak 2 or 3, gosh, whereas if you went and did a whole year, say you've got thousands of transactions, that's a lot to unpick and unwind and correct, and that's where sort of businesses then and sole traders end up in a position where they're actually, this information is, I'm going to have to redo it again, and you start wanting to, that's the whole situation we're wanting to evolve. What I would say is just go ahead and do it. Pretty much all the cloud software have their own videos they make. Have a look at them, do it. They're all sort of geared towards the actual consumer, so the business owner rather than the accountant, which probably 10, 15 years ago, they definitely were not. They were built for accountants and bookkeepers, whereas these softwares have been built for the business owners. So that's what I'd say, is just go, have a crack at it and see how you get on. And if you've got any questions, that's when you like, I've done it, can you maybe just have a look at it, especially if you've got an existing accountant. The benefit from our sort of standpoint is that if the information is, we trust the information, it makes actually our lives easier. So your fee goes down. That's
whoa. Steady on there.
I might decrease your fee.
By how much?
I might decrease your fee. Jamie might decide to not decrease your fee if you're still hard work. But that's something we can.
I'm sitting in the room sometimes when Dean's giving sort of like training on Xero in particular, and it's little things. It's like people maybe aren't utilizing the software the best they could, so like they're maybe manually creating invoices and things. Whereas like the software can do it, and you can make it branded, and you can change it and stuff. And it's like these are little things that I certainly wouldn't know how to do.
It's also where we've hit a lot of the cost, but it's the time as well. It saves, where most bank accounts, they're very niche banks that don't do it, connect to Xero due to the open banking network system. So the information gets put in the software that then you code up. So that's reducing errors, but it's again making your life easier. And then you've got the apps that can capture your receipts, so they're stored digitally, so you can then code them up. So it's part of the whole process.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sold.
I'm not trying to sell you software, but like ultimately it will make everyone's life easier. The way I'm describing it to people is like, it's not compulsory yet, but it will become compulsory. So you might as well just do it. Like that's the fairest way I can just, you comply or die. That's basically, well, I mean, reality. I mean, you were talking about like your fee will go up by a couple of percentage, but like the research looks like it's like 350% increase in fees.
All right, okay.
Like it's terrifying. Like if you're a sole trader, let's say you're paying £100 a month for your accountant, for your tax return and your accounts or whatever it is, whatever say it's £100 a month, it'll be £300 a month, like easily, or like as a minimum. Because if you're just coming in with the bag full of receipts, because the skill set will decrease because there are fewer people who can do that now. I mean, like I said, I dealt with farms, Don't
you have like a pharma analogy of some sort?
That's the making tax digital. So we're talking about how it's all coming in. It's It's definitely happening. Now I've got a real problem with it. And it's shared by a lot of people with my industry. It's basically HMRC are. They've executed this very poorly. It's not quite in yet, but they've been trying to do it for a number of years now. Now, the way I've been describing it to people is through, as was my wont, through similes and metaphors. And if you can imagine HMRC as a farmer, and he's been ploughing his field with this trusty workhorse, and he's been doing all right. He's always feeding his family, and everyone's doing okay. And all of a sudden, he goes back home one night, and he gets a leaflet through the door, says, "Digitalization, buy a tractor." So he immediately walks out and shoots his horse in the head. Like, that's what he's done. And then he realizes, looks at the leaflet again, and he goes, "Oh, this tractor isn't arriving for a number of years. And when it arrives, I've got to build it." So now there is no horse, which is, if you haven't picked up on the metaphor, though, the people who were experienced and actually good who worked within HMRC, the workhorses, and they just sacked them all, or they made their lives so difficult that they left. And now this is why we've got serious problems within HMRC. It's very much acknowledged within my industry. I don't think people truly realise just how awful things are at the moment. It is horrendous, and I blame no one who works within answering the phones at HMRC. I will admit, I used to get quite angry. Like, a number of years ago, like when this really started to become a problem, I was getting angry at like how frustrating the process is, and now I don't. I just feel sorry for them. It is horrendous. It must be so difficult to work in that environment, but it is all of the policy decisions doing. And they've basically, as our glorious leader in the Chartered Institute of Taxation put it, they've basically made the cuts and cost savings based on digitalization before they've been able to implement it, and that's the crux of the issue. And it's a real problem at the issue. And they're refusing to buy more horses because they know digitalization is coming. So what's the point? And so we're basically in this horrible situation at the moment where even basic issues are taking months and months and months to fix. And I just feel so sorry for people who don't have people who understand it, and you must be going around in circles, and it's grim. It's more ugly.
One of those things to sort of hit on that point is that it's too complicated for someone without our qualifications to understand. That's ultimately.
I think that's unfair. I think
we both use the stuff that it shouldn't. It needs. That's what hopefully MTD will do, is make it at least easier for people to not have to pay us to do it. I think that would be good for people. And we don't want to fill in forms, and I think that's
as I said earlier on today, I feel guilty charging people for doing very easy stuff that is not adding value. But it just needs to be done because nobody else can do it, and HMRC are not helping. So I just feel it takes me a long time. It's very time consuming. So I have to charge for it because, obviously, I don't have so many hours a day. I've also got a young child. I'm just I do not have enough hours, and I feel so guilty charging money for stuff that I shouldn't need to charge for. This should just work, and it's a real problem. And hopefully, well, I don't want a mini budget part 3, but I would like someone to take the issue seriously, and it doesn't appear to be, and that's my soapbox on that matter.
Okay, then, to end off, who do you want to come and speak to you? Other than for good
eccentric people. Like Dean and I, the way to describe it is that Dean and I have got two businesses that have very different target markets. We're two businesses working within the same business, running parallel to each other. And there is a lot of crossover, don't get me wrong, but my client base is very different to Dean's. But interestingly, what seems to happen is when I take these people on, they're typically doing just sort of general tax stuff, but because they tend to be absolute rock stars in their industry, they're the sort of people that go, "Oh, by the way, got this great idea. I'm going to go and set up a business now." Because my guys tend to be sort of employees, really high earning employees, share schemes, things like that. And they just go, "Hey, I'm really good at my industry. I'm going to go and do this other thing. I need an accountant. Who should I go and speak to?" So that makes my life very easy because I'm on the phone. I was like, "Hey, but Dean's sitting next to me. Do you want to speak to this guy?" And so that's how we've got a lot of our sort of business clients, is that I've taken them on to sort of fix various tax issues, and then all of a sudden they've grown into something else. So from my side, I mean, like I say, I want to deal with people who are interested in this EIS, SEIS stuff because I think it's great. I get a lot of work directly from IFAs and solicitors and other accountants. So it does happen when people directly contact me, but I tend to get it from another problem, and they know that I can fix it. Dean, on the other hand, you've got a different client base to me.
I do, yeah. So what I describe it as is you started the business, it's gone fantastic, and all of a sudden you're out with the honeymoon period, and you're like, oh, I've got a big tax bill, I've got a big corporation tax bill. Just things are starting to mount up. That's when I then can step in, and I sort of describe myself as sort of an interim financial director. So you go from your accountant that just deals with your compliance, which we do, but we are that stage from compliance, I said the microphone, all the way to then when you actually need to employ an actual financial director from that sort of standpoint. That's sort of where we're then building financial forecasts and budgets and the fun stuff from my industry. It's like that, the fun stuff. In my age, where you can see in a couple of years, you can look back where the business was to where it is now, and like, oh, I helped you with that. That's something and ultimately the goal is, if you're looking to become the next big rock star in X, Y, and Z, we take you through that next step. And something we would recognise is like, we can't help you anymore. Let's go and find someone that can help you. And that's the same even within the client base. If they're doing something quite unique, it's like, actually, we know someone who can do that. Go and speak to them, see, and then we can decide to stay on board with you're engaging with them for that specific help. So that's sort of where I see
to get back to what we were talking about earlier about the A to B, the B to C, the C to D. The A to B would be like from the get-go, like literally you've not set up the business yet. That's your stage A. You're nervous that you're not going to make enough sales. You don't really know what it's going to look like. And you're just like, well, okay, I don't really want to do my own like compliancy stuff, but it's probably not worth my money to go and do this yet. So I'll either do it myself or I'll go like the cheapest option. And the reality is that I don't particularly want to take that on. Like, I mean, I will if it needs to be done, but I don't particularly want to sort of like help them from the absolute beginning. It's stuff. Of course you do. Of course you do. So there's some people who really from the beginning need to nail it just by the nature of what they do, what industry they're in, or the rate that they want to grow. But there's a lot of people who will sort of grow much more slowly, and you probably don't need like an ICAS qualified chartered accountant, and you probably don't need a chartered institute taxation, like, there's nothing too complicated. Yes, we're going to nail it, but like, you could probably find someone a bit cheaper and a bit more economically savvy. But as Dean said, it's going to go, you're going to get to a point where you go, actually, oh God.
The point of that is when it stops being a lifestyle business.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest sort of twig, where all of a sudden you got the job and you've got your sort of side hustle and you're starting to make some real money from it, and you're like, oh, okay, that's when I step in.
Yeah, exactly. And then we will take you from that point. We get you. Well, the reality is that if you've been doing it for a couple of years yourself, the chances are you've probably not been doing it up to my standard. So I would just go back and review it anyway. If there are any mistakes, I just go correct it. It needs to be immaculate. That's the key point. So you go get you from stage B of like, oh, it's no longer lifestyle. I'm going to get you to stage C, which is multiple employees. You'll probably need a payroll department, which we don't have. I mean, we could run a basic payroll for a couple of directors or whatever. We've got a couple other ones, but that sort of stuff takes an awful lot more manpower. And so we've tied you up in a nice little bow. You've got a really high turnover now, and we're like, right, okay, we're going to come and speak to some of the bigger firms that we've got contacts in and say, hey, we've got this great client for you. It's too big for us now. This is perfect. Get them a great price and treat them really well. And if they keep growing, then they might not have quite the same relationship that we've built, because like we consider that really important. So they might go, hey, I just got this report from these guys you recommended. I don't quite understand it. Could you like explain it to me? And then we might charge, or you would charge like some kind of like extra fee, consultancy sort of stuff. And then it's like, we're still sort of involved, but like we've taken you to the next step, and like taking someone from B to C. And then at that point, C to D would be like, right, okay, oh no, you're international, like Saudi Arabia, like do all these like crazy things from all over around the world. It's like, okay, you probably need to go Big Four now, so like that's that next step. So it's about knowing you are in the market and like really working towards that, and not going beyond your remit, because that's when you start to get into bother. And that's something that I've personally been commended on, of like my ability to go, oh, that's a very specialist area. I'll find someone for
Yep.
you, and they'll nail it for you. And yeah, it's important to do that, which is why I keep saying within the technical tax industry, I don't see it as competition. I see it as we are all on the same side. HMRC is our problem at the moment, not each other. So yeah, but I also would like to point out, I don't consider HMRC the enemy. I've never seen them as the enemy. I see we should always be collaborating to get the correct answer. I think that they've maybe lost their way of seeing us like that. Another soapbox moment. I'm sorry. It's the beer. It's the beer. I'm sorry. I'll go to the pub later and just like stand on the table.
No, it's more interesting. It'd be interesting to map out who's spoken in which bit. And imagine you've just gone like all of a sudden towards the end, it's just your bar graph. So it's more and more and more.
I'm furious.
I love talking about markets because obviously as a marketer, it's like very important, I think, to know where you sit in the market and to know that you're not always servicing every single one in the market. So I love that. I want to then finish on a question from me.
Okay.
What can we do to make tax and accountancy simpler for people to understand?
You're trapping me. You're trapping me. Right. Okay.
Genuine question.
No, it's not. It's not a genuine question. You know what you've done. You know what you've done. Right. So tax in particular, what everyone's really upset about at the moment with the budgets was the disbanding of the Office of Tax Simplification. Which it does sound like a meme. Every time I bring it up, people think that I'm making things up. But no, it was a real thing. David Cameron brought it in order to do what it sounds like, to simplify the tax system. It was a sort of independent body. I say sort of independent body that basically was to come up with some good ideas, and it was filled with people like me, chartered tax advisors, people who went down the law route to do tax, maybe STEP, which is sort of like trust and estate practitioners. They came up with some great ideas. Like I'm about to have a big butt here, but no, truly, within my industry, it's what we're really upset about is that this has been announced that they're disbanding this organization, and tax simplification is going to be down to HMRC and the government, who don't have a great track record of tax simplification. Now, the biggest problem is that, in particular, they did some really great work on inheritance tax, particularly on various different tiny little reliefs. And I'm not going to get into it. I swear.
Please don't.
It's quite complicated, particularly the annual reliefs. And they had these great ideas. I really read into it. And I was like, okay, I'm on board. This is great. Fantastic. People are going to understand this. I'll be able to explain it easier. And basically, they wrote this incredible report, and the politicians just ignored them. I mean, it wouldn't have got any pushback from anybody. It was just truly just to make it simpler. And the government ignored them. And at the moment, it's bad to kick people when they're down. I mean, there's people who have lost their jobs within the Office of Tax Simplification, so I don't want to be too mean. But I personally, this is career suicide here, we're ready for it. I blame them. I truly blame them. And the reason for it is because you had this group of really intelligent people who truly knew what they were talking about, come up with great ideas, but they weren't able to explain it to their customer, being the politicians. And I think that is indicative of our industry as a whole. Basically, we know what we're talking about, but if you can't explain it, it's useless. So basically what I'm saying is, if they reinstate the Office of Tax Simplification, Letitia, I'll send you a message and you can go and help them out.
Until then, I've still got a job. Basically, is what you're saying. Thanks so much.
Pretty much, but no, it's great stuff. But it's really frustrating within our industry at the moment. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, at the moment, I think we've got a real problem because I think things will get more complicated, which doesn't help anyone, not even me. I swear, I want to make things simpler, but it's very, very difficult. But yeah, it's a bit sad. They did do some fantastic stuff as well. There was some really technical stuff I was talking about yesterday. I won't get into it, but there was something that they did that was really helpful for people. It wouldn't have reduced the tax take. It just stopped a problem, and it was sensible. And I just thought that was really good. And they did that just before they got disbanded, and that's officially coming in still from April. It's all to do with divorce and capital gains tax and stuff. But that was their idea, and it was it's good. Look up.
Okay.
Yeah, we need more power to the tax people. That's basically what it is. But no, it's what everyone in my industry in the technical tax side is what, like, if you go on LinkedIn, it's what everyone's talking about. It's there was a great quote. I've forgotten the guy's name, but I saw it on LinkedIn. He wrote in the Times. It was like Jeremy Hunt. If you really looking closely, what you should be doing is not disbanding the Office of Tax Simplification, but you should be putting it on steroids. And I thought it was really good. Like he knows marketing. Get him in. Get him in. So I thought it was really good. And I was like, yeah, I completely agree. It's in everyone's best interest, including HMRC and me and the taxpayer. Everyone wants it to be a bit more simple because it's just getting ridiculous. And also the fact being able to comply with Making Tax Digital. So not only is it complicated, even when it's simple, it's hard to actually do what you're meant to do. It's a sad thing. So there's your answer to marketing.
Thank you.
It's very important. It's very important because like just being good isn't enough. You have to be able to say your message.
Yes. Dean, any final thoughts?
No, am I allowed to speak now?
No, sorry.
This is what it's usually like.
Sorry, I was just I'm just committing career suicide.
Yeah,
here.
I know.
Slagging off the Office of Tax Simplification.
It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if I can stop this. What's my business partner about to go and do?
Like, fundamentally, I know I'm right. Come on.
I would agree. It's too complicated, and I think everyone within our industry would agree with that. It's just too complicated. But we're the other side. We deal with what we deal with.
I try to make it as simple as I can. Yeah. Try and explaining things with how it will affect you rather than like the technical legislation. Now I do love the technical legislation, but it's how you teach people. It's like, if you do it this way, this is how it will look. If you do it that way, this is how it will look, and it's like, this is how you have to live your life, and like that helps people a lot more to get it right when you explain it rather than the legislation terminology. Use it like, this is, you cannot enter the country for less than this number of days a year, rather than, you need to make sure that you don't have a home. Like, what's the definition of a home? Like these sorts of things, it gets very, very confusing. But if you say red lines in the sand, you cannot be here for this period, then that's really helpful. And that's tax all over. It's like, yeah.
And that's why I love doing what I do. Guys.
And not tax.
Making it seem a lot easier to understand, basically. My pleasure.